Nick, this is like the first time. No, this is the second time I'm doing a podcast with someone I just met, so I'm pretty excited.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So let's get going. This is another episode of Pints and Leaders, where we grab a pint, share a drink, and hear from local business leaders who have donated their time to bring you valuable insights, stories, and information. In one form or another, we're all in sales. It's an evolving game, and gaining a competitive edge can take you and your business to the next level. To learn more about this podcast, featured guests, or anything else related to this podcast, you can find Pints and Leaders on any streaming platform, all over socials, or on the website. So, Nick, we are going to jump into a beer, and I have a feeling that we can't even twist these off. So,
yeah, it doesn't look like that.
No, let me go grab an opener. I'll be back. All righty, now we could get these beers open. Let's see what we got here. It looks like we have some Victory Beers Sour Monkey Triple 9.5 ABV. So cheers, my friend. Cheers. Let's get it going. I'm a terrible pourer, so if this one turns out good, I'll be surprised. There we go.
Looks like you're getting a little bit better.
Oh,
you're terrible.
Oh, God, the last one, I think it was a darker beer. It had a lot of head. I was like, I'm looking like a rookie here. So cheers to you. All right.
It's pretty good, yeah.
It's actually really good.
I like that a lot.
I found a new beer.
Yeah, for real.
I'm doing a podcast next week. One of my friends, Johnny, he runs a beer tasting podcast. So I've been trying to get my my knowledge up to try to compete with them, but at least we'll have a good time.
Just have him on your show regularly.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Johnny, you hear that? You're coming onto my show next. All righty, Nick. Well, let's do a quick intro for you. Nick's one of the few people that are actually from Tampa or from Florida in general. Born in Gainesville, he moved to Tampa when he was 9 years old. Graduated high school here in Tampa and attended college in Ybor and St. Pete. Proud dad to his only child, Noah. Big Bucks and Lightnings fan. Something interesting that Nick has worked alongside some of Tampa's most influential chefs. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Professional point of pride for Nick is while he was working for a Big Four accounting firm here in Tampa, he beat out 2 tenured employees with master's degrees for a promotion that was 2 levels above his own position. He's a homeowner and an investor and has lived in more than 80% of the Tampa neighborhoods. That's pretty cool. Nick still loves exploring and experiencing everything Tampa Bay has to offer. And as like the past few years have happened, it seems like the definition of what Tampa is kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
The inches on the map keeps going wider and wider for
people
sure.
in Wesley Chapel saying they're living in Tampa. I'm like,
people in Bradenton and some people even in Upper Sarasota are like, yeah, we're part of Tampa Bay. Like, no, you're not. You tried, but
everybody's welcome to hop on the wagon. We know
exactly.
Tampa's cool. It seems like the whole entire nation found out about Tampa through COVID and the remote work pandemic,
That's exactly right.
It's been pretty interesting to see. I went to University of Tampa. My loan partner and I, John, went there together. It seemed like it was just a transplant of all the kids up north who wanted to go
in
to
a lot of ways
Florida
it
anyway.
was.
Everyone was from Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York.
Right.
It was just the same. High school just a little different for me.
Right.
But you've actually lived in Tampa Bay all of your life, right?
Most of my life. I moved here when I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been here since I was 9. So I call myself a Tampanian or whatever you want to call that.
Tampon? Is that it?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Trying to avoid that one. So it's always like maybe not.
No, not so much. So 9 years old, you came to Tampa, you grew up here, went to school here. What is it like, looking back at when you were growing up here compared to what you see now?
So Tampa has changed tremendously. Yeah. I mean, I've lived in Temple Terrace. I've lived in Carrollwood. I've lived in South Tampa. I still live in South Tampa now.
Yep.
I've lived by, where the casino is in the Mango area there as well. And the biggest changes I've really seen have been development, because when I first moved here, a lot of these spots were just land.
Right.
Like the casino was just a bingo hall.
Wow.
Like a 80-person bingo hall. And
That's
now look at that thing.
Yeah,
right,
it's
exactly.
gigantic.
It's like 100 times the size now. And you can take a look at anywhere in Wesley Chapel, anywhere here in South Tampa, especially like south of Gandy, where those are just plots of land that have now turned into these mega mansions and these huge apartment complexes and condominium buildings and things like that. So development has been a big deal of big amount of change. And then also something that I don't feel like a lot of people touch on, but I think we need to because it shows how far we've come.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ever, when did you go to UT?
2005, I moved from New Jersey to here.
Okay. Did you go to Ybor in 2005?
Yeah. My 21st birthday was on the 3rd floor at Prana.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you
had
go.
a great
Very nice.
time.
Yeah. Well, you were familiar then of how it wasn't really the best area of town.
Agreed.
There was even some people I knew they would refuse to walk there during the day.
Sure.
But now you can go there any time of day. You have no issues. So crime has really reduced tremendously.
For sure.
And I credit that a lot to Pam Iorio, who was our previous mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and now also Jane Castor, who was the previous police commissioner. And she's done a phenomenal job of keeping our streets clean and keeping us safer as a community and as a whole.
Great job, Mayor Jane. We love you.
Exactly.
We actually just got to hang out with her. We sponsored the Badge Bowl, which was fire department versus police department
Very
in a
nice.
flag football game. So that was pretty cool.
Who won?
Police. They won by a lot.
Honestly, that's
I think
surprising.
The fire department had a subpar quarterback, let's say.
Okay.
I think they had some issues,
Yeah.
but they might have had their starter get hurt or something. You know?
Gotcha. That's right.
Either way, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, going to UT, we pretty much stayed in this little bubble of places you do and don't go. You know, you don't really go up the river a little bit.
Right.
Now that's Armature Works. Now it's beautiful. There's gorgeous apartments. It's $2,500 a month for a 1-bedroom.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And then going back over to the Ybor corner, Gasworks is coming. They were trying to bring the baseball team over, but it looks like they're staying in St.
They've been
Pete.
trying to take the baseball team for the last 30 years.
I know. I mean, I would love it if they did. I wouldn't have to go all the way over the
Right,
bridge.
exactly.
But I still enjoy going to baseball games.
Yeah.
So St. Pete gets to keep their little, feature.
Hey, you got to give them something.
Yeah, right. Go ahead. Just make the Trop awesome, and we'll be there a lot more.
Right.
Please.
And just still claim you're part of Tampa Bay area. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll take credit regardless.
For sure. But I completely agree with you. Tampa has changed. Water Street, the Channel Side.
Yes.
When I was in college, I worked in Channel Side. I worked at the Bennigans on the second floor.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember when the Bennigan's
Long time ago. Right?
Yeah.
So now it's, a complete different look. It's, what do they call this? The trailers that are converted to restaurants.
They're like, oh my gosh, I lost the word.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, like the shipping containers.
Yes, the shipping containers.
Yeah.
They're now like a bunch of restaurants. They got this big open lawn, when the ships come in, it's just really cool place to be now.
Yeah, exactly.
The aquarium's always been there.
Yeah, the aquarium has always been there. I feel like they're trying to do a few things, but we'll see what happens once Gasworks and everything kind of moves into that Ybor area.
For sure.
I know Jane Castor, the mayor again, was talking about revamping that whole entry area to the aquarium, making it just look a lot nicer, more accessible to locals as well as cruise patrons.
Yeah, and I just saw they're adding like another mile to the Riverwalk, so this thing's going to go all the way to Orlando. 5 miles.
Yeah, it's going to go all the way up to past Ybor, past Tampa Heights.
That's cool.
And then curve back down straight to downtown again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
I love how Tampa has expanded, but I hate the traffic. It's starting to get some big city traffic.
It's getting bad,
feel.
in a couple spots. And but that's one of the things about Tampa, right? So I've lived here for like almost 30 years. Yeah. And just looking at the amount of time I've been here, the amount of time that 275, the I-4 intersection, has been under construction, it's been about the same amount of time that I've lived here.
It's true. And now 275, the Howard Franklin is getting a whole nother bridge added on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, you've been here a long time. You've done a few different really interesting things. One of the most interesting to me is that you got to work with some of Tampa's chefs. Yes. How was that? What did you do? What was that like?
So I met both of the chefs that I worked at the casino. I worked at the casino years ago as part of my culinary career of my life, so to speak. And I worked with Taro Lareo, who used to be the executive chef of Eddie V's when they opened.
Awesome.
And now he's moved on to his own business, Tablas by Taro, which is like a catering business and things like that. And the other chef was Chef Michael Buttacavoli, who, if you don't know, went on the Food Network and beat Bobby Flay on Bobby Flay's show.
I love it. I love it.
He's got a little Italian place called Cina in Channelside.
Sure.
And they're competing for Michelin stars as well.
Very cool.
So those two are really kind of impactful in that time of my life as far as what I've learned and how to approach things. I think the biggest thing that I got from that experience, because I kind of entered it as a prep cook and then worked my way to line cook, and it's kind of where you stay for a really long time in culinary. But I learned a lot of time management. I learned a lot of urgency in the sense of what's important and prioritizing things. And then also, I think a really big piece of it is pivoting, right? So we would start the day with, okay, we've got 7 prime ribs. Okay, we've got this many producing plates from that, whatever. Hit the end of that. Oh, wait, we still have 8 hours that we're open.
Service.
What do we do now?
New special.
And my chefs would often have an idea, but
yeah.
occasionally they'd just be like, hey, you figure it out. So I would learn to pivot and be like, okay, well, we can't do prime rib. We can do this, that, or the other thing and make it work.
Yeah.
So those skills have really helped me develop into the real estate role in the ways that, I can tell what's the most important piece to tackle first. Like, do you have funding? No. Okay, let's backtrack a little bit, get funding first.
Yep.
And then as far as pivoting, from your own experience as well. Sometimes contracts just fall through. Yep. Sometimes through nobody's fault of their own. It's having some way to pivot the customer, teach them, say, hey, look, we're going from point A. Point A didn't work out. Let's look at point B now and continue the process without having any type of negative impact on them as well.
Yeah, for sure. A few years ago, my wife and I had the opportunity. I got to work out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Nice.
And Bobby Flay actually every year goes over there for the Derby. And he hosts like a biscuit breakfast of, very, very famous, high-end, historic house. And he comes in with his team and they host this huge breakfast, 250 plus people for Derby. It's really cool. But living there, I got to encounter multiple chefs that I would hear their name and got to meet them if I was lucky they were in the restaurant. And then I see them on Food Network the next week. I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. So I didn't know it was, like my connection to food and seeing it on TV was just really awesome for me. But one thing, those guys work hard.
Oh, yes.
The hours that are put in is really insurmountable. Like no one really sees how early they start and how late they're there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know as a mortgage person that my clients value. I'm there
absolutely
after they're done working. That's when we start working, right?
Absolutely.
That's when the phone calls come in. That's when they're able to communicate about what they need, what they want, or how we can solve the problem together. So I agree. I think that kind of experience does translate into the work ethic needed to be successful in the real estate and mortgage business.
Absolutely. Completely. Yeah. You're completely right. I couldn't agree with that more. And like truly, just kind of looking again at the hours amount. I remember when I was working in culinary, I would start at 5 a.m. And I would be done at 3 a.m. And then I would have to come back at 5 a.m. and do it again.
It's wild to think about. You just somehow do it, but it's what it takes, right?
Right, exactly. That's what it takes. And then like translate that to real estate, like you said, in mortgage industry, being able to do that and hold those hours while still accomplishing things during the day that are regular business hours really impacts the customers extremely positively. So it's all worth it and good.
I completely agree. So thinking about all those people that have, maybe coming from out of state, moving to Tampa, or those that maybe live in Jacksonville, Gainesville, different areas of Florida that may be considering coming here, what's your advice to them as far as what they should be looking for or what areas to look at, based on their needs?
Well, so first of all, I would always recommend to talk to you first.
Yeah. Get pre-approved.
Get pre-approved. Yes. Get pre-approved, then call me.
Yeah.
And then as far as what area they're looking at, I really think it depends on what their values are and what they need out of their home and what they're expecting out of their home.
You could go to horse country. You could be in the middle of Slick City and Water Street, right?
Right. Yeah. And your budget will determine part of that, obviously, but also the lifestyle you want. Like, do you want to be able to walk to Publix and then walk to Amalie for a Lightning game and then take an Uber to the Bucks game, or do you want to?
Sounds great.
Exactly, it sounds fantastic to us.
Yeah,
but then there's, like you said, other people in horse country up in northern Wesley Chapel, West Ocala area. They just want that peace and quiet when they're home. They want nothing around. They're willing to drive that hour and a half. So I think it's important to kind of define what matters most and how your quality of life will improve based on what you're looking for. So I like to sit down with my clients, and I'm sure you do the same. To kind of evaluate that with them. Kind of go through a basic checklist of, okay, do you really care how close you are to Publix? Or is it just kind of a convenience thing? Like, where's work? Do you work from home, or do you need to drive an hour and a half south? Whatever it may be to make things work a little bit more smoothly.
No need to look at the area with the good schools if there's no kids in the house.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. To consider that an investment property in the future.
Right, exactly. One of my good friends, his dad is moving down from New Jersey, selling his property, and he's has always wanted to live the boat life. So he's going down to Punta Gorda. He's getting a house with a dock in the backyard. He's going to live the boat life he's always wanted. He didn't want to be in the city. He wanted to go enjoy fishing. He's towards the end of his career. He's got a few years left. That's all he wants to do. Him and his boat and his wife. He just wants to have a good time,
That sounds like
some of my other buddies. they were 25 years old. They just want to party. They want to walk to everything. Right. So they're looking for the high-rise apartment, going to Sky Point or something like that, where you walk downstairs and the world is your oyster.
Exactly. Exactly right.
I love that Tampa has all those options as well.
It does. It really does. And the starter home areas, you're looking like Wesley Chapel, Northern Tampa, Eastern Tampa.
Yep.
Those people who, like you said, like buddies in 25, you kind of look towards South Tampa, Ybor, Water Street. And then as far as 55 plus and the elder crowd, we got everywhere in Florida, but we've also got St. Pete beaches, Madeira Beach. There's a lot of those 55 plus communities with that access to those boats, access to that water, everything like that. It's wonderful. We got a lot of opportunity here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, just to finish things off, I know we talked about it, but I know you said you had a book that really impacted you and your career, maybe just you personally. Tell us a little bit about that book, and maybe some of our listeners will want to, dive in and hear more about it.
Absolutely. So it's admittedly very far off topic and very esoteric.
That works.
So it's called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. It has nothing to do with Zen and nothing to do with motorcycle maintenance at all.
Interesting.
It's a book written by Robert Persig. He's a philosophy major back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And the whole concept of the book is diving into what does quality mean to you as an individual, and how can quality exist in the world without our opinions.
Interesting.
So what is the baseline of what's high quality and low quality? And kind of the first time I read, I was 16 years old. Mm-hmm. So at that age, you're very susceptible to all kinds of influences, right? Sure. And it kind of opened my eyes to what's important in life, right? Because I started to see things like at the time I owned kind of a crappy car. I was 16 years old. I was lucky to have a car at all.
Right. I think my first car was donated by my neighbor that passed away. Right, that was my first car. She was like 90 years old.
Exactly. I think I saved like allowance and stuff. Spent $1,000. That was about it. Yeah. So a little beater. But it worked at the time. But kind of looking at that car compared to where I'm at now, or, driving a nicer luxury vehicle, it's kind of like, well, as far as quality in life, I would much prefer to have had this luxury vehicle back then, obviously. But at the time, all I knew is high quality was what I had.
Yep.
So it's interesting to think about how quality evolves over time and how we define our own quality, but also how life kind of finds its own version of what matters is high quality, like family and friends and things like that.
Wow.
So it's kind of a very unique perspective, and it's very dense read, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's very good.
Well, at least you didn't pull out Grant Cardone, the same ones everybody brings.
I know.
I think that was pretty unique. I like that suggestion. Well, when I was going through, social media holes today, I came across a pretty great quote that I wanted to share with everyone. It says, "The only man who makes no mistakes is the man who never does anything." And President Roosevelt, when I looked, I believe this quote was back in 1902. The world was very, very different, but I believe this principle still stands to today. You have to get out, you have to take risks, you have to have fun, you have to do what you want, and then in the end, mistakes are a good thing.
Right. How else do you learn? Right. How else do you improve without finding out what you're not good at?
For sure. Well, Nick, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I'm sure we're going to have you back and, chatting with you. We'll be able to talk all things Tampa and more. But I appreciate you joining us, and that was Pints and Leaders for you.
Cheers. Thank you.